So in this video, I'm going to do a tutorial on how to create the repeating ring animation that I used in a lot of the videos. So first, let's create a composition. And I'm going to create a base main composition where we're going to do our final render. And I'm going to just pick the UHD 4K for the 29.97 frames per second. Okay, this is going to be where we're going to do our final animation. And I'm just going to rename this composition main. Now I'm going to go and create a new composition. And instead of this 4K resolution, I'm going to just choose 600 by 600. It doesn't really matter, but it just has to be a square composition. Okay. Now we are going to go to the ellipse tool, hold down Shift, and then draw a ring. You may notice that the anchor point in this circle isn't in the center of it. So while you still have this shape layer that you just drew selected, go to Layer, Transform, Center Anchor Point in Layer Content. This is going to matter a lot when we do our scaling animation. Now for our composition, we are going to change our time to just be a little above 1 second. Now this doesn't really matter what you choose, but this is the number that I'm going to go with for this tutorial. After that, we're going to use the align to center this ellipse in the center of the composition. Now we want to make it into a dashed circle. So open up the shape layer, go to Contents, then the ellipse 1 shape, then open up Stroke, and then where you see dashes, click the plus. And now you have some dashes. You can change how the dashes look with these numbers. It doesn't really matter what you choose. It's up to your preference. Now, we want to add a isometric feel to it. So we want this ring to be in a top looking down position. So for isometrics, we're going to go to Transform on the ellipse 1 and go to the Scale property. Unclick the constraint proportions so we can actually scale them in different ways. Now the isometric top is going to depend on this very specific number, and it is 86.602. And so that should squash the vertical scale a little bit. Then we'll go to the skew, and we will put 30 degrees for the skew. And then for the rotation, so it's going to be this number onto the side, click 30. Now it looks like it's an isometric projection. So in order for us to make the animation, I'm going to send some keyframes to this layer. So I'm going to say this scale will be keyframed, and we will make it 0 at 0 frames. And then at around 1 second, I'm going to make it 100. Actually, we'll scale that down to just a little bit smaller than that. And so you can play this composition, and it looks like a ring that is scaling up. It's great, but what we would like to do is go back to this 1 second mark and then turn on the opacity and turn it down to 0 so that it fades out once it grows to its maximum scale. Go down to about the 24 frames, so about 3/4 of the way of the full animation, then make it 100. So if you play it, you'll notice that it fades out when it has completed, sort of mimicking a weakening radio signal. To give this composition some added signaling behavior or signaling concepts, we can copy the layer and stagger them out like I've just done. So it'll look something like that. Great, now that is your ring composition. I'm going to go to composition, then go to the settings, and then call this rings. Cool. Now I'll go to the main composition, and then go to composition settings, then go to duration. Let's make this 10 seconds, so something very long, and we'll add the rings. Now if you scale out, you'll notice that the rings are definitely shorter than the actual composition. How do we make this repeat indefinitely? So what we'll do is we will right-click on the rings composition layer, then go to time, and then enable time remapping. Next, we're going to hold down the Alt key, and then click this stopwatch while holding down the Alt key. And then we will put a expression called loop out cycle. That means every single time this composition is done, it will loop out to the very beginning and go back to the forward. Because we enable time remapping, this layer can be dragged indefinitely. So I'm going to drag it to the end. Now you'll notice that it will play until perpetuity.